Hello guys, welcome back, and today I'm going to be talking about NHL refs and why they've been so bad in these playoffs. Now so far in the playoffs, officiating has been embarrassing to say the least. So why have the refs been so bad in these playoffs especially, and how can this problem be fixed? Watch till the end to find out. Now, referees in the NHL are a touchy subject, especially in the playoffs. When it comes to these playoffs, we've seen a ton of games, game after game, being decided by questionable calls, and that is a serious problem. Now, the most recent controversy with the referees came in Game 3 of the Western Conference Final yesterday as I'm recording this between the San Jose Sharks and the St. Louis Blues, and this game was going in overtime. I think it was about 5 minutes into it, and Meier was in the offensive zone. The puck was in the air. He ended up batting the puck with his glove. It went to Nyquist, and then he set it up right in front of Erik Karlsson, who just snuck it past Binnington to take the 2-1 series for the San Jose Sharks. But obviously, at the start of that play, Meier with the hand pass, and that is where the controversy lies. Now, with the hand pass by Meier, that should have been blown dead when Meier swatted that out of the air. When it's in the offensive zone, if you swat out, if it's a hand pass, the play should be blown dead. And unfortunately, no refs were even seeing that at the time. Apparently, no ref was even watching Meier right there with the puck, so we didn't get any hand pass stoppages of play, nothing like that. And because of that, Erik Karlsson was able to score in overtime to send the San Jose Sharks with that 2-1 series lead. And especially for the St. Louis Blues, this sucks a lot. Now, I am by no means a Blues fan. In fact, I don't really like them too much, but it was a very unfortunate result for them. They had a very strong game up to that point, and it should have kept going in overtime. But of course, due to that, San Jose Sharks, due to a pretty blown call right there, were able to take that 2-1 series lead, and Erik Karlsson, I don't think is complaining whatsoever. And it would be fine if there was a couple of games in these playoffs that have been heavily determined by referees and their calls, but it's been all over the playoffs. In the first round, the second round, and the third round, most of these series have at least one game that's been defined by a ref, whether it's a missed call, a call actually happening, whatever it might be. The referees have had a lot of influence in the playoffs so far, and usually when that's the case, it's not a good thing. And it's getting to the point where the San Jose Sharks themselves have been affiliated with all the bad calls that have gone their side. While the San Jose Sharks have had some good calls go their way, they've had an excellent playoff run so far. I think they deserve a lot of credit for what they've been doing. But because there's been a couple of games that have gone their way, obviously the Vegas-San Jose Game 7, and this game, Game 3 in the Western Conference Final, is a shame because it kind of taints a playoff run that's been pretty great otherwise. And especially with these playoffs, I don't think we've seen a playoffs more plagued with controversial calls and missed calls and whatever it might be than this year. While there might be some recency bias of that, it's been pretty bad. We've seen a lot of games, again, being determined by some wacky, pretty confusing calls, especially on the ref side, and that kind of sucks. When it comes to reffing, it's a tricky code to crack because reffing is always controversial, reviewing is always controversial. That always happens, but it seems like with these playoffs, it's stepped up to a next gear. Now, with the playoffs, especially compared to the regular season, referees in every single game are under a much bigger microscope than before. Every single mistake that they might make is blasted on Twitter, online, whatever it might be. And I think they kind of deserve that at a point. When we come to the Tomas Hertl stuff, when we go to the power play, the 5-minute major that San Jose got in Game 7, I think the refs deserve to be blamed at that point. But we gotta realize that these people are human. These are human referees and they have lives too. It's kind of sometimes hard to realize that when they're on the screen and they make mistakes. Even though it is their job to make those right calls, everybody makes mistakes, and especially NHL refs. And yes, these guys' jobs is to make the right calls. I get that. But when it's one of the fastest sports in the world and you need to make every single call right, there's not exactly a lack of pressure there, especially in the playoffs where pressure is at a high, not just with the players, but with the referees. To make every single call right, the referees are under a lot of pressure every single game. And I can see how that can get to a referee's head, how every single call can be that important. And when it comes to referees, again, these are humans. They make human mistakes just like the players on the ice. And when we look towards all 4 major North American sports leagues, the referees are always a problem. In the MLB, in the NBA, in the NFL, all the refs suck, and even in the NHL, that happens too. But it's not exactly like this as a rare occurrence that NHL refs are bad, because it happens in every sports league that you can possibly imagine. It's always a thing. When it comes to human referees, you are not going to get the exact result. You are not going to get every single call perfect because they are human. They are human referees, and that's why we have video review, is because sometimes these humans can make mistakes. In the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, we see it all the time, and that's no different in the NHL. Now, because these are human referees and because humans do make mistakes, all the time, there have been some people maybe suggesting maybe putting some robot referees into the NHL. And while that might work for a sports league like the MLB who has frozen plays and can have those exact measures, with the NHL, it's a lot more complicated. Now with the NHL, as I said before, it's one of the fastest sports leagues you can find on this earth. And that's a problem when you're trying to put robot referees into the game. Yes, robot referees would be perfect, but it would take quite a while to fine-tune that, to really make that work. And that's something that NHL could invest in, but I'm not sure if that would make too much of a difference. With everything going on, when it comes to like goalie interference, when it comes to like penalties, when it comes to hand passes, whatever it might be, putting robot refs into the game would be a super big undertaking, and in the end just might not even be worth it because of how much work it might take. But let's say the NHL puts billions into these robot referees. It would still probably take quite a bit of time for them to actually fine-tune it and to make it perfect, because with the point of these referees, these robot referees, they want to make every call perfect. And if they do that, it'll take a long time to develop software for these robot referees to actually get them to actually work properly and to make a ton of them, because you can maybe make them into regular season games. That would take a lot of work. If we're putting robot referees just to make a couple of plays right, I'm not sure if it's exactly worth it at that point. But if humans are bad referees, and we know robot refs will take a while and a lot of money to develop, what is the answer here for the NHL, and how can they fix this problem? Well, I'm glad you asked. Now for me personally, the last thing that the NHL needs is more reviews. For the most part, they prolong the game, they make the game longer, and you usually have to wait like 10 minutes for an actual call to be made. But what if the NHL didn't actually need reviews in the first place? Now there was a fantastic suggestion by Carolina Hurricanes coach Rob Brind'Amour, and he suggested that the NHL should have 2 officials, 2 referees, whatever you want to call them, in the press box watching the video at all times, whether it's at different angles, whatever it might be, always watching the play to make sure that there's some plays that might have been missed by the referees that don't end up getting missed. Maybe you have the referees on the ice with some kind of earphone in their ear or something, and they can talk back and forth, but you have officials up on the press box that will be able to detect something that the NHL referees on the ice might miss. Now I think this potential idea could be a fantastic one for the NHL to consider. Just imagine with the Timo Meier goal and the Timo Meier hand pass that ended up being the Erik Karlsson goal, just imagine how much different that would be if 2 officials were looking in real time, saw that Timo Meier flubbed it with his glove, flubbed the puck right back to Nyquist, and that whole play developed. Imagine if they saw that, was able to tell one of the referees on the ice and be able to get a correct call there. That would be huge for NHL playoff games, especially. From a lot of the controversial plays that we've seen so far in these playoffs, it has been kind of fast, it has been kind of referees kind of missing some plays, and that would fix a lot for the NHL and would give a lot more calls, especially regularly. And we all want the NHL referees to make the right decisions, and if they do put maybe 2 or even just 1 official in the press box watching the video at all times, that would create a lot of new opportunities, and it would, for the most part, I think, solve some of the NHL referees' problems. It would maybe mean that game was still 4-4 if a referee or official that was in the press box was able to see that he did touch that puck with the glove and did swat it. It would be a completely different story and would be the correct call on the ice. Again, Timo Meier, that play should have been blown dead, but because the refs weren't able to see it on the ice, that's why we didn't get it. But because of that whole play, if an official was on the press box seeing it, it would have changed everything. And from what we've seen from the playoffs so far, I think this is a big problem the NHL will at least attempt to sort out. Whether it's with that official idea, whether it's with going for a more automated approach. When it comes to the refereeing, this is something that the NHL will have to sort out eventually, probably this offseason. Whether we see it in GM meetings or something, it'll be something to keep an eye on, because these playoffs have been so bad to a point where almost every single team is calling out the NHL for whatever might happen. And besides the San Jose Sharks, obviously, who have gone pretty well off, it's been a main problem throughout the whole playoffs, and the NHL doesn't do something, it could be a main problem again next year. And I don't even think this 2 official in the press box thing would be too much to handle. It would definitely not be a big undertaking, especially compared to like making robot referees. If you just put a couple more referees up in the press box, make sure they're talking to the refs in real time to get those correct calls, I think it would go a long way, especially in next year's playoffs, to help it, especially referee-wise. And I think this whole 2-referee thing in the press box idea is the way to go. It would definitely work, and it would definitely prevent stuff like the Timo Meier hand pass to Erik Karlsson OT goal. It would definitely prevent illegitimate goals from happening a lot more than what we have right now with human refs. Again, it is a decent idea, but we could definitely go a step above it. And I feel like having those 2 referees will go a long way to solving the ref crisis that the NHL has right now. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So, let me know, what do you think about the NHL referee crisis so far? Do you think in the playoffs the referees been good? Do you think they've been bad, and why? And of course, when it comes to this whole referee idea, how would you solve it? Would you do the official thing, or would you go for robot refs or something? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video about Brad Marchand and why we need to stop falling into his trap. But that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on the refs so far and how you would fix it. And I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.